This story is very meaningful. Everyone should hear it. Listen to Brian tell the story. I'm Michaela Anderson, and at 34, I'm realizing that the life I thought I knew is nothing but a web of lies. My marriage, my career, everything I thought was solid is crumbling before my eyes. It all started with a simple moment, one I never saw coming. Jason, my husband, having lunch with Sarah. The same Sarah he swore to me he never saw outside of work. But I saw them, sitting at a corner table at Cafe Luna, laughing like they shared some private joke. I confronted him, of course. Jason's smooth voice was the same as always, full of condescension, dismissing me as though I were insane. "You're imagining things, Michaela. I don't know where this is coming from." His words made my head spin, but there was something else that made my heart drop. His eyes. They were cold, calculating, like he already knew I would doubt myself. But I wasn't going to let him twist this again. My whole life had been built on trust, on facts, on my instincts. I was a journalist at the top of my game until I met Jason. I had been sharp, confident, and a rising star at the Houston Chronicle, but Jason's charm had worked its way in. I fell for him, hook, line, and sinker. The whirlwind romance, the big sweeping gestures, the constant attention. But now, as I stood there watching him lie through his teeth, I felt the familiar chill of betrayal crawling up my spine. I remember the first time I really started to question him, years ago when I was about to get promoted to senior investigative reporter. Jason told me to turn it down. "You're already so stressed, Michaela," he'd said. "You need a break." At first, I didn't think much of it, but slowly his concerns about my career started to take over, and I was left with fewer opportunities, less freedom. I was so consumed by him and my job that I never noticed the slow drip of control he had over me. He wanted me to depend on him. He pushed me to sell my house, liquidate my assets, and now he had me questioning everything. The Cafe Luna receipt that I found in his pocket after that argument was my first real piece of evidence. A receipt from today, the same day he denied ever seeing Sarah outside of work. I was starting to piece things together, but I needed more. I couldn't let this go. I didn't just want the truth, I needed it. And for the first time in a long while, the investigative journalist in me was awake again. The next morning, I decided to follow up on my instincts. Instead of going straight to work, I drove to Cafe Luna. It wasn't long before I found out more than I bargained for. The barista, with her familiar smile, confirmed it. "Yeah, Jason and Sarah are regulars. They sit by the window." My stomach churned. They'd been going there for months, and I had been blind to it all. But it was the women at the counter that really struck a chord. "Did you see Sarah's Instagram post?" one of them asked. "The one with her work husband? They look so cozy." That was the moment it all clicked. Jason's regular lunches with Sarah weren't innocent. This wasn't some one-time slip-up. This was planned. As I scrolled through Sarah's Instagram on my phone, my heart dropped into my stomach. There they were, Jason and Sarah, laughing together, their faces so close, their chemistry undeniable. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to keep it together. I had to. I wasn't just dealing with the cheating husband, I was dealing with something bigger. When I got to work, my mind was still spinning. The missed calls from Jason, the passive-aggressive text messages that always followed a confrontation. They were starting to feel like a script. "Hope you're not still upset about yesterday. You know how you get when you're stressed. Love you." The words blurred as I stared at my phone. I had seen this before, over and over again. His attempt to guilt-trip me, to make me feel like I was the one at fault. But I wasn't falling for it this time. Not anymore. That's when I got the news. Andrea from the city desk knocked on my door. "Did you hear? They're restructuring the investigative team. Rachel's leaving." Rachel was my mentor. She had always been there for me, always pushed me to be better. "What? We won't," I asked, trying to mask the concern in my voice. "Apparently it's budget cuts," Andrea said, but there was something in her voice that didn't sit right. "But rumors are that some people aren't happy with her last story. Someone complained to the board about her aggressive reporting style." My heart sank. Jason had been at that charity board meeting just last week, where Rachel had confronted the board about journalistic integrity. Had he been the one to sabotage her? Was this another attempt to control me? To make me question everything? Later that night, Jason and I had dinner at his parents' house. Dinner at the Winters was always a display, a performance. Jason's mother, Clara, doting on him, and his father, Robert, dominating the conversation. But tonight, the tension in the air was palpable. I couldn't ignore the undercurrent of unease. Michaela, Clara started, Jason tells me you've been struggling at work lately, having trouble with your stories. Jason smirked, trying to hide it behind his napkin. Actually, I'm doing quite well, I said, keeping my tone steady. In fact, I'm working on a piece about deceptive business practices. I glanced at Jason, his knuckles tightening around his fork. It's amazing what people think they can hide, I added. Jason's father, Robert, leaned in, clearly interested now. What kind of practices, he asked. Financial manipulation, hidden relationships, conflicts of interest. I sipped my water, watching Jason's face pale, his grip tightening on his silverware. Jason's been doing so well at the firm, Clara said, oblivious to the tension. Did he tell you about his promotion? Promotion? I asked, trying to keep the surprise from my voice. No, he hasn't mentioned it. Jason immediately cut in, his voice sharp. It's not final yet, Mom. I was waiting for the right time to tell her. The conversation shifted, but the seed of doubt was planted. How had he been promoted? And why hadn't he told me? As we left the dinner, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Jason was avoiding the truth, but I wasn't going to let him get away with it. When we were driving home, I couldn't hold it in anymore. When were you going to tell me about Sarah? I asked. Don't start, Michaela. You're imagining things, Jason snapped. I wasn't imagining things. This was real. And for the first time, I was ready to face the truth. Jason pulled the car over so suddenly that I almost jerked forward against my seatbelt. What's real, Michaela? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. What's real is that you're having another breakdown. You're paranoid. And it's exactly why I don't share work news with you anymore. You always twist everything into some crazy conspiracy. The words hit me like a slap in the face, but I wasn't backing down. I know what I saw, Jason. I know what I heard. And I'm not crazy. The confrontation at dinner with his family had given me the courage to confront the truth. I was done living in his world of lies. I needed to fight back, and I needed to do it now. I couldn't let him keep twisting the narrative. I couldn't let him use my doubts against me anymore. As we drove back to the house, his words echoed in my head, each one designed to make me second-guess myself. But I wasn't going to allow it. Not anymore. Later that evening, when Jason was at the gym, I had some time to think, time to plan. I needed evidence, something concrete that would make him realize that I wasn't just some naive wife, blindly trusting in everything he said. I pulled out the receipts from Cafe Luna, the text messages from Sarah, the subtle signs I'd missed for so long. But now they were all pieces of a larger puzzle I was starting to put together. I pulled up the files on my laptop, each one a little thread of a much bigger story. Jason had been lying to me for months, manipulating everything in his path to get ahead. The financial records he had hidden were damning, and so were the emails I uncovered from Sarah. They had been using me, my reputation, my credibility, as their cover for months. By the time Jason returned home, I had everything I needed. I was ready to confront him again. He came through the door, exhausted from his workout, his usual confident demeanor nowhere to be found. I could feel the tension between us before he even spoke. His eyes darted toward me, expecting a fight. You still upset about earlier? He asked, his voice laced with that same patronizing tone I had grown to hate. No, Jason, I replied, standing up from the couch. I'm not upset. I'm done. His brow furrowed. What do you mean, done? I walked over to my desk, where I had carefully laid out all the evidence. I've been looking into everything, Jason. All the lies, the receipts, the text messages, the records. It's all there. His face went pale, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He stepped forward, trying to grab my arm. Michaela, this isn't what you think. You're overreacting. Overreacting? I repeated, laughing bitterly. You've been gaslighting me for months, Jason, making me doubt myself, making me feel crazy. You've been stealing from me, using me, and I've had enough. I slapped the papers down onto the counter in front of him. You don't get to control me anymore. Not my career, not my life. I'm done. Jason stumbled back, his jaw clenched. You think you can take me down? You have nothing, Michaela. I'm untouchable. You're just a journalist trying to make a name for herself. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. No, Jason, I've already taken you down, and the truth is going to come out. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about everyone you've manipulated, everyone you've hurt, the people you used to cover your lies. His face went from anger to shock. What do you mean? I mean that I've already sent everything to the authorities. I've sent it to the board. They know everything, your father's crimes, your little schemes. They all lead back to you. You're finished. I could see the color drain from his face. He looked like he was about to collapse. You can't do this, he whispered. You can't. You'll ruin everything. I crossed my arms, finally finding my voice again. You ruined it, Jason. You ruined everything. As he sat down heavily in the chair, I pulled out my phone and called Rachel. It's done, I said. We've got him. Rachel's voice crackled through the line. Are you sure? This is it, Michaela. You've done everything, right? I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Yes, everything. I've done it all. Jason slumped in his chair, his face blank. You think you've won? You think this is going to end with me behind bars? His voice was trembling now, a complete contrast to the confident, calculating man I had known. I think it ends with you facing the consequences for everything you've done, I said, my voice steady. And I think it ends with me getting my life back. Jason stood up, pacing. You're making a huge mistake. You're destroying your career. You're destroying everything we built. I looked at him one last time, my heart still pounding, but my mind clear. No, Jason, you destroyed it. I'm just cleaning up the mess. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving Jason behind to face what was coming. I wasn't afraid anymore. I had everything I needed. The truth was finally on my side. The next day, the board meeting at my office was unlike any I had ever attended. The room was filled with people from the firm, their faces carefully blank, as if none of this were real. But it was all coming to light now. I had the financial records. I had the proof. I had Sarah's confession and Clara's statement. And now Jason and Robert's empire of lies was crumbling. Jason had no idea how badly he had underestimated me. I had been the one he tried to control, the one he thought he could manipulate. But in the end, it was him who had been the pawn. The board was shocked when the evidence unfolded. This is beyond our expectations, one of them said. How could we have missed all of this? I told you, I said, standing tall, finally owning the moment. The truth always comes out. Later, as the FBI took Jason and his father away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. They thought they had everything under control. They thought they had played me, but I was the one who had the last word. I'm finally free, but there are so many other stories to tell. The aftermath of this whole ordeal was only the beginning. How do you think I handled it? Do you think I made the right decision in exposing everything? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you've ever experienced something similar, don't be afraid to speak up. Remember, your voice matters, and the truth will always find a way to rise.